All right, Xfinity at Martinsville. So here are my settings. Brake bias, this is for qualifying. I don't think having a low brake bias is that a good of an idea for the race, because when you're in a side-by-side Martinsville situation and was beating and banging, you want kind of quite a bit of front brake bias in it. So for the race, I'd be at like 72 plus. For qualifying though, when you actually do want that trail brake to help you in the mid corner, where that half a tenth to 1/10 really matters, you can try to see if you can make that work for qualifying. If you're like really good, maybe you're not watching if you're like alien level, but you can make the low brake bias work if you need to. It's just it doesn't seem like there's enough reward for the risk. Okay, gonna get in here, get it kind of sliding up, rotating. Little bit of hesitation back onto the throttle so I don't lose the rears. Not gonna brake too late here. A little slide up, turn it back down, and throttle off the corner.
That was your fastest lap of the session.
Probably lost a little bit there in the middle of 3, but should be good. So the biggest thing, I mean, it's not that crazy of a lap. Notice what happens. The biggest key here is notice what happens between the level of brake and the steering wheel. So you'll see this in a lot of like road tutorials, but the amount of brake that I'm able to use directly correlates with how straight I can keep my straight steering wheel. So as I kind of point into the corner, I can have quite a bit of brake, like 60, 70-ish% depending. So I really start with a stab right there of like 70, 60-ish. And that's when my steering wheel is like completely straight. Then I point my car and I have to back off to like 50 as I start to turn in. Then as I really turn in, it backs all the way down to like that 20%, 10 to 20% trail brake that we all know and love. I do want to probably stay on the bottom a little bit more than that. But the thing is that if you use more steering wheel mid-corner right here, you run the risk of disengaging your right rear tire and sliding it. So you don't really want to add steering after you get to the curb. I could have held the trail brake a little longer and then went full throttle, but I don't think that would have really gotten me anything. What you're really just looking for here is to maintain that level of grip, and then the car just goes where it wants to go. Same exact thing with 3 and 4. Again, look at the brake. For whatever reason, I tend to not put as much brake into 3 as I do into 1. I don't know if that's psychological or if that's actually how the track works. But yeah, I'm maxing out at like 50 here. I think it might be because I start turning in right away. But still, biggest thing, if you have one takeaway from this, it's the brake level needs to directly correlate with the amount of steering that you have. And then here I actually add a little bit of steering. And it actually works in 3 and 4. 1 and 2, it really, there must be a bump or something because it disengages the right rear. 3 and 4, you can get away with adding a little extra steering wheel to turn it back down to the bottom. And once you get that angle, you're just free to get on throttle and really get kind of aggressive with it, as long as you have the angle and you can start unloading the steering wheel then. So those are the main things. We can talk about it a little more. Actually, I'm going to go up to my brake bias that I would recommend for the race. We'll go to 70. So I was going to say long run here, but these races, as you guys know, don't really have long runs. So we'll talk a bit about like how to manage the car. So as you can see, I don't have quite as good a turn with the 70. Well, let's say you're down here defending. Earlier entry and just really trying to park the car on the bottom. See how I don't really have any sort of issue keeping the car under me? That's very important, because if you're to get a bump squarely and you're kind of on the edge, it kind of sucks. But when you have that high brake bias and you're able to do a shallow entry, that was an overdrive, so I slid up. And that's what happens a lot of times. People overdrive and then they just door the hell out of you. Taking the second lane here, like, it's not fast, right? You just have to hold the car as tight as you can. You can see it's not slow, so you can run people on the outside, but you have to really be willing to hold them really tight to the bottom. You can't, like, you can't think about giving them room because it's Martinsville. There's just no such thing as giving room. You run them as tight as you need to run them. If they door you, it's probably fine if they're even with you. If they're like at your quarter panel, maybe consider overdriving corner a little bit to clear. But you can see how like it's not super slow to run that second groove, but watch what happens once I start sliding up a little bit more than second groove. I'll try to run this as best as I can up here. But like, do you see how there's no grip? It all goes away. It's just physically impossible. So there's like 2 grip strips on iRacing. The first grip strip is right on the bottom. Fine. And then the second grip strip is like directly above it. You cannot give them any room. Like right there. And at lower levels, that's kind of sucks because like that's asking a lot out of the person under you to be able to just not overdrive and keep it down here and not track all the way up to the wall there. And that's your risk versus reward to consider. So I'm not going to talk about long run because there isn't going to be any long runs, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts when racing at Martinsville. I'm either running the bottom and I'm like just trying to keep it on the bottom, or I'm trying to keep it one lane exactly off the bottom, barely giving them any room, and then being very mindful where they're at relative to my car so that if they make contact with me, I already know what I have to do. So like if that's my quarter panel, that'll spin me out, so I have to correct to the right really quickly. If they door me, that's fine, just drive through it. If they try to clear me and have their right rear quarter panel into my left front, then I kind of turn down more. Like if they're going to wreck themselves, I'm not going to just wreck myself with them for the sake of it. But those are my thoughts. Martinsville is just going to be a fun show anyways. All right, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. Hope to see you all on the track.